How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about EVGO. Many are asking me, Dre, you be talking about ChartPoint, you've talked about Volta. We need to get an update on EVGO. They do have earnings that is coming up, and they have been showing a strong uptrend. So you know what? We'll discuss it. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to go on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for EVGO. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $10, being down 4.58%. On the low, it tested $9.97, and then on the high, testing $10.68. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 3.218 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 3.09 million shares. So we did have a little bit above average volume on the day, but we dealt with a good amount of selling pressure in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it is at 57.52. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 200-day. We're also below the 100-day, but we are above the 50-day and as well as the 21-day EMA. So for this coming week, we could see on the Friday, yes, it did look fairly bearish. It did test the 200-day right here at $10.69, but it hit a high of $10.68 and it dealt with a rejection. If we end up seeing some strength going into Tuesday, of course, I'm going to want to see us test this level again. Breaking through this 100-day, I think it's very achievable, and if we're able to break through this 200-day, I'll be looking for that move for us to get above $11. Keep in mind, they do have earnings that is coming out on March the 2nd, and it's part of the reasons why I do believe they should be able to hit $11 prior to that. If we continue to have weakness inside of the market, that's where my thesis will change, and this is where we can experience a pullback, and then we're going to want to see if support could hold up right here around $9.75. The low on Friday was right at $9.97. So that's what I'm saying. If this level breaks, we could see $9.75. And if that breaks, then we can start testing here all the way down to the 50-day at $9.50. And the moment we get to this particular level, as far as going into earnings, that's where I see $11 will be a difficult feat. But for the most part, that's what you want to see. You want to see it hold up this level right at the $10 area and then make that test again to the 200 so we can reach 11 going into earnings. So let's see how it performs for this coming week. So now let's get into the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for EVGO. Scrolling down further on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So taking a look at the recent filings, we can see for the 17th and as well as the 16th, we have a good amount of closed positions. We also see for Zulo Investment Group Inc. that purchased 56,200 shares. We also have SG3 Management LLC, and this is for the 15th, purchased 3,000 shares. We also have Westside Investment Management Inc. that purchased 1,500 shares, and we have Integrated Wealth Concepts LLC that purchased 14,339 shares, and we see SG3 Management again that went in with a call with a value of 7,500 shares, and we also have Wise Asset Management LP that purchased 19,492 shares. We see some more closed positions as well, but as we go back to the 14th, there was a lot of institutional activity, and we can clearly see institutions have been loading up. And another point I want to bring to your attention, take a look at this graph right here. So as the stock has been trending down for EVGO, institutions have loaded up, and we can see this being very noticeable for the month of February. So this is great for anyone that's looking at EVGO as a long-term position because institutions have been showing bullish behavior. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 46.63%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is at 608,942 shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 100,000, updated 23 minutes ago, and then for the short ball-free rate, it is at 79.87%. That is very high. And then when we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 17th, it was at 52.74, and then for the close of the 18th being at 46.63. So that is a significant decrease right there, but one thing that remains the same, EVGO does have short squeeze potential. So this is why you want to keep a close eye on this play. So now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for EVGO. So we see here on the inflow, it is at 6, and then on the outflow, it is at 6.33. Keep in mind these numbers are in the millions. Taking a look at the breakdown, on the large, it was 0. On the medium, it was 3.87. And then on the small, it was 2.13. Taking a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large, it was 0. On the medium, it was 3.98. And then on the small, it was 2.35. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see it was zeros down the board. Analyzing numbers even further for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the large, it represents whales, institutions, and funds. This is where we had 0 on both sides. But one thing to be aware of, as far as the differences, they are very, very close. And that's why we had 6 million versus 6.33 million for inflows and outflows. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 1.22%. So this is actually pretty good for a stock like EVGO. There are many who are holding on to their positions. And despite all of the volatility we have inside of the markets, and seeing the turnover ratio being at that particular level for a growth stock, this does give a lot of confidence for anyone that's looking at this as an investment. So now let's go into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for EVGO, taking a look at the technicals, I would love for us to hold up the $10 level. But if we end up having a pullback, which I feel could happen, as long as we're holding up around $9.50 and as well as $9.31, it still continues to look good. We also do have earnings coming up on March the 2nd. So that's why I'm saying I want to see us get to $11 prior. And if we end up putting up another earnings beat like we did on the last earnings report, then we can go even further. One thing that is very clear though, we do have resistance right at that 200-day, and that's why getting above that 200-day is very key for this stock, and that's where I can look forward to seeing that breakout. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership, we could see institutions have been loading up on shares, and they have been doing it a lot as of late. And then when we took a look at the short interest information, it does continue to have short squeeze potential, and it also has a short borrow fee right around 79%. So this is fairly high. This tells us there's a lot of negative market sentiment for the stock, but this is not surprising knowing how bearish the market has been. And we also have to take into consideration profitability, and that's going to be one of the key metrics you want to keep an eye on when they do release their earnings. You want to make sure there's a strong path to consistent profitability. They are growing their revenues, and they're also showing execution, which EVGO has been doing a fairly good job as of late. This is very important when it comes to growth stocks, and especially since we're going to be entering an environment of interest rate increases. So EVGO has a lot to prove, but at the end of the day, this is a fast charging play, and it does have distinct advantages compared to others we talked about on this channel in regards to Volta and as well as for ChargePoint. So if you are in a position, or maybe you might be considering to get into a position, I would wait for earnings. I know what you're saying, Dre, why don't you just buy in before earnings? I look at it like this. If you've been doing your homework and you've been doing your due diligence and you want to see, hey, what else can they prove? Then you want to be able to look out for that earnings report and also listen in on that earnings call. You want to be very confident, because at least if the stock does pull back even more, you'll be even more confident to buy the dip. This is very crucial, especially as we get into new market conditions. This is not 2021 or 2020 anymore. It is a different environment, and I want to make sure you are fully prepared for it and you have the stomach for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see how this stock performs for the coming week. We'll talk soon.